Juggling with rotten tomatoes. Juggling with rotten tomatoes. Scream.
Alright, I admit it, hands up. You caught me. I'll tell you the truth. I will be pining over Mason Gooding Jr. and Jasmine Savoy Brown today. What do you want me to do?
I'd seen their work in Ready or Not and thought it was absolutely beautiful. This is soothing me. This is really soothing. I haven't had physical touch in a while.
Oh, what? Oh, you're just gonna cast the two most beautiful people in Hollywood and expect me not to say anything about it? No, I'm just kidding. I just needed to get that out of my system. I'm not weird. I'm not a weirdo. That might be debatable. I am a raging Scream fanatic though, and if you haven't been here before, then welcome. This is a series called Scream for Dummies where you are factually and contractually obligated to hear me nerd out about these movies. First, I take you through all the behind the scenes stories of the making of each film, and in all the videos prior, I was using the book It All Began with a Scream. But that book came out before Scream 2022, so it only covers the Craven years. So today, I'll be showing a ton of the cast and crew interviews mixed in with all my fun facts. Then we do a very detailed plot breakdown of the movie where I pull out both the most iconic and the most underrated moments. But before I can even think about diving in, before I even consider it, I need to know if you're all in. Are you going to sign your name in my book and devote yourself to this coven or cult? Sometimes we split hairs on that. But whatever you want to be in this community, it's as easy as clicking subscribe. And it helps to click the notification bell so you don't miss the next meeting. It helps to click the like. It's all pretty elementary, really. I pride myself on having the easiest cult to join. Another thing before we get into it, you really should watch the first 4 parts of this series because why not? Get all caught up, you know? The playlist is on the homepage of my channel waiting with open arms. Now that that's taken care of, let's dive back into our Scream history lesson and of course, spoilers ahead. We left off in the Scream story about 12 years ago with the release of Scream 4 and the unfortunate passing of Wes Craven. I started crying in my last video when I was talking about it, so let's hope we can keep ourselves together today, huh? Just a little refresher to set up some context. Scream 4 didn't yield the box office success that they were hoping for, but this did not deter Harvey Weinstein at all. Apparently, he had been explicitly expressing a desire to do another movie after Scream 4, basically right after its release. He's quoted in this IndieWire article, and he's saying he has urged his brother Bob, who heads Dimension Films, to make Scream 5 happen. Everyone lived in Scream 4, I'm begging him to do the movie and just end it. We've milked that cow. So really wants to make another movie, but wants it to be the last one, I guess. I mentioned in my last video that the lack of success for Scream 4 led to them canceling their original plans for a new Kevin Williamson trilogy. And then at this point in time, he was quoted in 2013, Harvey was like, let's just end it all. Obviously, he couldn't get anything in the works with his brother at that point. Then in 2014, I found this really interesting Bloody Disgusting article where Kevin Williamson talks about the fact that he had more sequels ready, but that Craven was done with him. When Williamson went on to confirm what any Scream fan already knows, he's not involved in the series development anymore, as Wes Craven and his team are done with him. He also noted that these original pitches could very well turn into something bigger in the future if all goes well. It's all here in my computer if they want to buy it from me, he said with a smirk. And I couldn't find anything solid on this matter if they actually had a falling out or what happened. I did find a Vulture interview with Wes Craven where he's talking about the fact that Kevin Williamson was supposedly replaced with Aaron Kruger, and we talked about this in my last video, and Craven also specifies that no, Kevin literally just had to get back to his TV show at the time. And the interviewer asks, there were rumors that Kevin was leaking word to the site Zap2It that he had been fired and that the actors were unhappy with the script changes. And Craven says I wasn't privy to that at all, and I wouldn't lie about that. Craven is like, I don't know about that drama, but the Vampire Diaries was calling him. So I can't figure out why Kevin Williamson said that. So random, because I've never come upon anyone who had any ill words to speak about Wes Craven. I feel like there had to have been some sort of miscommunication around that time, maybe with the Weinsteins or whatever, I don't know. I wouldn't put it past those Weinsteins to be like, actually Kevin, yeah, Craven, he's not really down anymore, so we can't do another Scream movie. Look at me making up fake scenarios in my head to hate the Weinsteins even more. I did, however, find an article with all of Kevin Williamson's original plans for Scream 5 and 6. So in Scream 5, Jill went to college and then murders start on the campus, and it was a killer who knew she was the killer from the last film. So the killer kept trying to expose her, so she would have to kill to keep it covered up, so it was killer meets killer, and Sydney was a professor at that school. Scream 6 was going to answer whatever happened between Dewey in Gale. Sydney was in it, but it was more focused on Gale's storyline. I'll be so honest, that sounds so much better than what we got with the 5th installment, but I'll save my thoughts on that for now. Bob Weinstein just wasn't on board with making another movie at this time. They got the MTV show up and running. Wes Craven also sadly passed in 2015, as we talked about, and hopefully you took my advice and used Google to learn all about what Harvey Weinstein got himself into, that raging piece of shit. So you understand why in 2018 the Weinstein Company declared bankruptcy and ultimately was closed down. This left the Scream franchise in limbo because now not only did the show kind of flop, but the company that had owned the rights was now no more. So finally in 2019, Spyglass Films acquired the rights to Scream and they started development on the installment that we saw last year. The directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette had directed my personal favorite horror movie of all time, Ready or Not, prior to this. They were announced as the directors of this new installment in March of 2020 with Kevin Williamson attached as an executive producer. What's so funny is that they used Scream during their pitch to sell Ready or Not and get that made. And I'm assuming it was the brilliance of Ready or Not that led to Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt approaching them to direct. So really their lucky day as huge fans of the franchise, they were approached. They didn't even have to fight for this job. But we know that what a Scream movie really needs is solid writers, and I did get some behind the scenes insight to the writing process. They actually decided to watch all the movies together over the course of 2 nights. We both took notes and were very purposeful, didn't talk over our ideas, we just wanted to have stuff occur to us. When we sat down to compare them, about 90% of the stuff that Guy wanted to have in the movie I had written down as well. It was a weird shared brain experience. A few of those things included having the movie be set in Woodsboro, another that they wanted to spend most of the first half of the movie with the new characters and develop them before the legacy characters came in. It also was apparently a mish to get Kevin Williamson involved because apparently he turned it down the first time, saying that he didn't want to make another one without Wes. So they had to court him, basically, but once he was on board, he gave them some really solid advice and they felt like they were in a really good place. And they were also so excited to be a part of it. And the interviewer basically asked them, are you worried that people are gonna hate it because it's not being made by Wes and Kevin? And James says, I maybe wasn't scared enough. The idea that we could get to do it while working really hard not to fuck it up was the most exciting thing I could have possibly imagined. That's a running theme, by the way. The directors, Matt and Tyler, are also the biggest Scream fans.
It's surreal.
A dream come true.
A dream come true.
We're pinching ourselves every second of every day. So there was this sort of split brain experience on set where, half of us was like just always fanned out, watching the monitors going, wow, we're watching the next Scream movie, and then quickly realizing, well, we're here, we have a job to do, we actually have to direct.
I too would constantly be awash with disbelief and awe if I were in that situation. And the whole cast loved them. Even the legacy characters said that they felt Wes's presence because of the energy these new directors brought to set. And speaking of actors, let's talk about this cast. As always, everyone was so excited to be involved with a Scream movie. They were like, I'm pinching myself, this is a dream come true, etc. There is one person that you would be shocked, nay gobsmacked, to learn that she was never a horror fan.
I'm embarrassed to tell you, I was not. But that's not my fault. I blame my mother. I wasn't allowed to watch many films. While we were shooting the film, actually, I watched the first film, and then the second, and then the third, and then the fourth, and went, oh.
Our very own Mindy, not a horror fan in real life. Not her fault, but still. She is a total nerd about Broadway and the Enneagram personality test, though, so. Luckily, her counterpart, Mason, is such a big horror fan to the point where this happened.
See you guys.
See ya.
James and Chelsea, I'm such a big fan of you guys. You guys are so good, dude.
What?
You guys are so great. I watch Kill Count before interviews just to make sure that I'm up.
Stop. Are you serious?
If that happened to me, like I became aware of the fact that that man knew that I existed, that's a picture wrap. That's lights out. I would faint. So they're better than me. I would have cried. I don't know. But quick pause on story time. This duo, Jasmine and Mason, are the funniest people I've ever seen interviewed. You've probably seen the Scream 6 press interview where he's like, mwah, Twitter, see you there. But I'm gonna save that one for next time. But they've always had that chemistry during press. It's incredible.
But so far, historically, I've leaned more toward the idea of being the villain than being the victim.
You play a great villain in real life too.
Oh yeah, I'm notoriously mean.
Every time I read a horror film, every page, I'm like, I'm dead. No? Oh, okay. I'm dead. No? Okay. Almost in anticipation. I feel like if...
Because the tall person usually dies first.
Is it tall?
Yeah.
Or is it
Oh, I'd be fine then.
I know, all I'm doing is showing their interviews, but you came here to be entertained, did you not? We will get to the other girlies now, okay? Let's discuss our leads really quick because I think that their casting story is amazing. Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera actually did their chemistry read over Zoom with each other. At the time, the actresses were in completely different countries, and the directors still said that they felt their chemistry through the screen. They also all speak very highly of Jenna to the point where it's kind of obvious that she's maybe a little bit of a teacher's pet.
Oh man, I don't even know where to start with Jenna. There's something Mason would always say about Jenna specifically, that she's just built different. There's just something about Jenna. It's a prodigical talent that she has. We'll all be working for Jenna Ortega someday.
And can I blame them for this? No, I cannot. Because she does possess this raw talent that I feel like only about 0.005% of actors have. They needed to have good chemistry because their relationship is kind of the foundation of the new direction of the franchise, so check mark there. Jenna loved Scream, was so excited to audition for this movie. She also loves working in horror, as we know. But this was Melissa's first ever horror film. And luckily, yet again, Scream brings the good vibes.
So we would all hang out. It was kind of like a summer camp vibe. We had a common room in our hotel that we'd like watch horror movies in.
Summer camp is exactly how the original cast described working on that first set. The parallels. Not only did they all hang out together all the time watching horror movies and stuff, but it gets even more meta than that. None of them knew who the killer was for most of filming. In fact, when they first sat down to do their first table read, the last act of the movie was missing. Most of them also got different scripts with different endings and different people dying, and one way that they spent time together was playing a game called Secret Hitler. It's the same as games like Mafia, that was what we called it when I was a kid, but in their version, you have to find the secret fascist. According to Jack Quaid, things got really intense. It would sometimes devolve into yelling matches, and they played about 3 times a week. Most meta filming experience ever. But I think it's high time that we talk about our legacy actors because everyone was excited that they were returning.
You don't even know. Jack knows
I
because
know.
he was with me all the time.
Ooh,
But,
when's Courtney getting here?
like
When does Courtney arrive?
I played the scenario of me meeting Courtney a million ways in my brain. They say don't meet your heroes because they can disappoint you. Courtney is the sweetest, nicest, most generous, talented person you can ever meet. Like, she exceeds all your expectations.
Watching the arc of Melissa like waiting for Courtney to arrive, and then when she actually did arrive, and then seeing the two of them become best friends, it was the most wholesome thing I've ever seen in my life.
I used to be such a big Friends fan as a kid, and I probably would have been feeling the same way. So you see, Melissa and I are the same, and we should be best friends. But yeah, we had Courtney back, we had her ex-husband, David Arquette, and he is a major goofball in his interviews, by the way. Also, I never knew that he was a certified Bob Ross painting instructor, and apparently one day on set, he gave a lesson to all the younger actors. That's some wholesome shit. That's what I like to hear. You know what else I like to hear? How they got Neve Campbell back into this franchise. The directors took it upon themselves to write her a deeply personal letter about what it would mean to them and everyone else if she returned.
The directors, Matt and Tyler, sent me a letter prior to my accepting the film, telling me that they actually were inspired to make Ready or Not, their other film, by the Scream movies, and they became directors because of Wes Craven. And that meant so much to me. They said in the letter, we're going to honor his legacy. You know, we really believe in his work, and this is going to be a genuine Scream movie. It's going to be in that same vein and energy and at the same level, and we want to do right by it. I mean, it was such a beautiful letter.
That clip also came from the Drew Barrymore show, which I think is just such a fun little cast reunion, and it seems they followed through on their promises completely. They brought a what would Wes Craven do kind of attitude to the set that all the legacy actors really appreciated.
It was great to come back. I love playing Gail. It was really emotional because it's something that means a lot to us, and we've been a part of it for so long. It was sad without Wes, but these 2 new directors are incredible. You'd be proud.
And everyone became really close again. I think you can tell in the interviews that everyone really just loves each other. A Scream set has done it again, baby. Wholesome vibes only. In November of 2020, Kevin Williamson announced a picture wrap on the new Scream. He stated how he felt that Wes Craven would be so proud of the movie that Matt and Tyler were working on and how they carried on Wes's legacy. This was where we learned that the movie was just going to be called Scream, and what we didn't know at the time though is that that was a play on the commentary being made in the movie. So people did kind of make a stink about it, myself included, and they even make commentary on that in the movie, but we'll get there in due time. Though in some interviews they do call it 5 Cream, which I have been a staunch supporter of since day one.
Congratulations on the success of Scream 2022, the new beginning, whatever we want to call it.
5 Cream. Five cream.
Five cream, yeah.
You see, I'm not crazy. I'm not out of touch. I'm right on the ball. 5 cream, 5 cream, 5 cream. But no, it will forever just be Scream, I guess. Now, Scream released on January 14th of 2022. It was a bit delayed because of the pandemic. The movie made over $30 million in its opening weekend, which far exceeded the box office projections. And it was finally the first movie to dethrone Spider-Man No Way Home as the top earner of the weekend. You understand? Marvel should fear us. Over its run, it made almost $138 million internationally, not too shabby. It was embraced so warmly by fans at the time, even I myself went to go see it twice in theaters. Critic scores were never amazing, like right now it sits at a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes, it's at a 60 on Metacritic, but on Letterboxd it sits at a pretty comfortable 3.4 out of 5 and is generally well liked. After the recency bias has settled now, after about a year, I think that some of us are starting to notice the rewatchability might not be so great. I've noticed that for a lot of my friends, Scream 5 has now quickly kind of made it to the bottom of a lot of ranking lists. Interesting how the tides turn, but that being said, are you ready to get into this plot breakdown? Now, at the time that this movie and this cast were announced, we already knew who was going to be in the hot seat. Jenna Ortega was well on her way to becoming a Scream queen already before this movie. She was in the show You, and then she was also in Babysitter Killer Queen. I was telling you to keep an eye on her back then, you remember? Remember when she was in You? You remember when You used to be good? Yeah. Anyway, let's get into this opening. We start with a phone call right off the bat, just like the original, very direct homage. She just doesn't answer because who the hell answers a landline these days? Who the hell even has a landline these days? We don't. They also established that she has asthma for literally one other plot device reason later on in the movie. It's the most pointless character attribute otherwise. I also remember theories about Scream 6 when this movie came out and people were like, Tara is definitely the secret third killer. She's literally texting with Amber in this opening. She's not a secret third Ghostface. So can we please put that theory to rest, at least for now? Now, something that I have seen people clown Tara for, especially on Twitter, is the fact that when she's asked what's your favorite scary movie, she says The Babadook. And she actually has a really well thought out and relevant reason as to why. It is an amazing meditation on motherhood and grief. How can you clown on her when she's literally just correct? Maybe it's because she used the term elevated horror, and yeah, it's mostly used by snobs. It's kind of been twisted by them, so I get it. It's scapegoat language for people who don't respect horror, but they needed to find a way to admit that they do like some horror movies. Basically, it's a term used by people who think that the horror genre only consists of slashers, so idiots. But another homage we get is of course Tara with the knife block, gotta have that. Another thing they introduced that I think is smart is that technology has changed and she's able to arm the house just with her phone. But is that a good thing? I guess we'll have to wait and see. So now the killer is threatening Amber, and at this point on a rewatch, again, it becomes so obvious that Amber is a killer because the killer's literally texting on Amber's phone, but they're like, this isn't Amber. And now we're like, yes, it is though. But at this time, we don't know Amber, we don't know anyone, so why wouldn't we just trust that it's the killer who stole her phone? Another thing that's really fun about this opening is that they play stab trivia, which is really Scream trivia. And while she's being questioned and the clock is ticking, she just looks up the answer, like we're truly in a new age. But because she forgets that it was Billy and Stu who were the original killers, she gets stabbed at the door. Look, you get the trivia wrong, you die. Those are the rules.
Now you gotta die. Those are the rules.
I love referencing Stu all day, every day, baby. Interestingly, we're about to circle back and realize that this new fancy technology might not be our friend. And I thought that this was such an effective moment when they're like, do you think you got it locked before I got in? Her attack also made me realize just how brutal this installment was gonna be, and look at that camera work. I love me a good menacing Dutch angle. I mean, a knife goes through her hand, Ghostface stomps and breaks her ankle, and right off the bat, I was like, oh, this installment's gonna be dark. This is also the first time in Scream history that someone has survived the opening scene. To their credit, these new writers do take a lot of swings with their opening scenes, but not necessarily always for the best in my opinion, because I don't love that we find out that she survived off screen. It just doesn't really hit that hard for me, I don't know, but then we also meet Richie, who just has the worst dialogue.
You are my morning pills.
No thank you, actually. Here begins the threads of a huge issue that I have with the new installments of Scream, and they only continue to get worse in the next scene. Here's where we get an iconic Scream high school hangout scene to meet all the new characters, and at this point, they're literally all duds. Richie comes through with that boner line, and then no one does anything of interest in the scene where they're introduced. Like the press interview of Jasmine and Mason joking about his bruises is more entertaining than the actual scene.
Apart from being a potential killer, he's certainly a killer of charm. Nice guy.
Oh, you did that.
Sweet with the words. Got bruises on his arms. And that's probably
What are the bruises from?
football. Obviously.
Oh, that wasn't suspicious at all.
Hey, anyone could be the killer.
Anyone.
Now, Mindy and Chad, don't get me wrong, they're my favorite of the new characters, but they do take a minute to develop. We're reintroduced to Judy, who's Wes's mom, and she's dorky as always here. But they also introduce Vince, some guy who poses a threat to Liv. Vince is one of the most frustrating things about this movie because it's literally Kyle Gallner and he's completely wasted. Like, you have a Scream king here and you do nothing with him. See The Haunting in Connecticut, see the A Nightmare on Elm Street remake, see Jennifer's fucking body. And then in this movie, they're like, let's just make him a fucking loser who only gets 2 scenes. Now there is actually one good line of dialogue in this scene pertaining to Vince.
Probably time to introduce him to Hobbs and Shaw.
Yes, Your Honor, I did laugh. Not a great line, it's no Henry Winkler whoring generation, but this movie just doesn't really give me that much to latch onto, so. Then they establish that Richie has never seen Stab, and this is meant to throw us off the scent, I presume. I thought that this was actually a pretty well written scene. It gives us a lot of exposition, while it's also Scream poking fun at itself and comparing it to Halloween. I do like the reference to Jill because Sam is talking about how she was the last killer, but they don't even mention her name, so I don't know, put some respect on that, maybe. Like, she was only, I don't know, the best ghost face since Billy and Stu. Anyway, so she gets to the hospital. Tara is emotional about her sister's arrival, and she looks like shit, honestly. Props to hair and makeup for taking a girl as beautiful as Jenna Ortega and making her look that ravaged. Amber also reveals to everyone that Sam is a really suspicious character because she used to get into a lot of trouble with the law and then just bailed on Tara and the family.
I just don't want to see Tara hurt again.
Okay, so no guys are good enough for her, and now her family's off limits too.
Yeah, Amber does kind of seem to be in love with Tara. I do like the theories that Amber is in love with Tara. She's quite invested in her life story, if nothing else. And if you weren't aware, that's partially why people came up with a theory that Tara was going to be a secret third killer in Scream 6. People were like, they're in love, can't you see it? I do, because I always choose to make everything gay, but I don't believe in that theory anymore, I'm sorry. Now we're at the local hang spot, and we get a better picture of this Vince character.
You want a real drink? Or you happy sitting at this kid's table?
This makes me laugh so hard. I know he's doing a good job, but it's just the well done, Kyle Gallner. He's being gross outside before his death scene, and Red Right Hand makes its noble return right as he's being killed. And I really need you to pay attention to the sound editing right now. Oh, and they do the knife wipe. Still not as good as Stu, but it's okay. Great death scene, really just for the way that they used Red Right Hand. I thought that that sound mixing and editing was really good, but I'm still salty they killed him off. He was way too obvious of a red herring, but we've seen how in the first movie that can work really well. A waste, and you know I'm a bleeding heart environmentalist. I hate waste. Oh God, and speaking of, here we go. There's the return of Billy Loomis. Antipsychotics aren't working as well as they used to, huh? This is so weird. I remember when it happened in the theater, I was like, what? Billy Loomis? Oh my God, Skeet. This has aged tremendously poorly. They couldn't think of any other metaphorical or allegorical way to depict her inner struggle. I just know that they didn't consult a single person with a doctorate while writing this script because what the fuck is going on? It remains this nameless syndrome that makes her pop pills and see dead people, and we're just supposed to see that and be like, yeah, okay. Interestingly, that was the big swing that Kevin Williamson advised that they take. He said specifically that is the least Scream sounding thing that I've ever heard of, but that's why it worked, so leave it in. Okay. Then of course she gets attacked by Ghostface, and she's kind of a badass. She fights him off real quick. And I do love the next scene because upon a rewatch, it's just funny that the two killers are arguing with each other about who the killer is.
I was watching Netflix.
Ooh, yeah. Super solid alibi, bro.
That's a good line. Well done, Mikey Madison. Now the next scene is long-winded. I'm just gonna sum it up for you. This is the emotional starting point for Sam and Tara because it's when Sam reveals that she read her mom's old diary and found out that she is the secret daughter of Billy Loomis. So that's complicated. You know, I get why Tara told Sam to get lost because that's a lot to process. Oh, I forgot to say, before she goes in to talk to Tara, Deputy Judy is like, you should leave because you don't even care about this town. It's giving racist? I don't know. Like, what the fuck was that? I get that she used to be a troublemaker, but that was when she was a literal child. She's a whole adult now. Like, does she look out of line to you now, huh, Judy? When she's fled home to be by the side of her sister who's been turned into a literal pincushion, there comes that unlikability for Judy making its unwanted return. I like Judy when I watch Scream 4. She's enjoyable to hate, kind of. Here I'm just like, okay, you nasty little woman. So Richie and Sam go find the lone sheriff, and once again, we're graced with Dewey's presence. There's some Easter eggs like Tatum's ashes there, and a photo of him and Gail, and he's watching Gail on the morning news. This makes complete sense to me where Dewey would end up in life. I don't know about you. I had also called it that Gail was gonna be a big news anchor before this was released. And did you catch what she said right before Dewey turns the TV off?
Bangs again. Someone stage an intervention.
Kill Weathers.
Bangs again. Someone stage an intervention. Of course, these new directors couldn't help themselves. They had to comment on the bangs. But honestly, I'm really tired of it. It's kind of like the Wilhelm scream. You still hear that scream in movies sometimes. It's not even an inside industry joke anymore. It's just an annoying thing that still happens for some reason. We need a new Wilhelm scream, and also we need to move on from the bangs. So let's do just that. This time, Dewey gets to lay down the rules for surviving a stab movie. Never trust the love interest, killer's motives are connected to something in the past, and the first victim has a friend group that the killer is a part of. David crushed that, and I love that this is establishing the rules of the Stab franchise that hasn't been done before. He also does such a good job of portraying this midlife crisis that's a really depressing situation while still keeping it really light and humorous. In fact, this is probably the best performance of David Arquette as Dewey. Not my favorite, but probably his best. My favorite performance is either Scream 2 or 3, I'm not sure. All right, you ready to put your tinfoil hats on, folks? Sydney is out jogging with a baby when she gets Dewey's call.
How are you? How's Mark?
I think I'll keep him.
How's Mark? I think I'll keep him. Who's Mark, you ask? Oh, I don't know. Only the super sexy guy from Scream 3 who presumably stuck around and fell in love and had babies with Sydney. But when Neve Campbell was asked about this, she kind of denied it. I mean, at first, she didn't even know what the interviewer was talking about.
Oh my gosh. This is really hard questions.
I'm sorry.
I haven't seen these movies in so long. Please tell me you know who Mark is.
So I think it was Melissa who reminded her who Mark was, and I don't even know if that jogged her memory because this is what she said next.
Yeah, I didn't know whether they would end up supposed to have a relationship or something, but I think that ended up not being the case.
Neve doesn't think that she's back with Mark. Oh, okay.
I honestly, I've made so many of these, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Knowing now that I apparently know these movies better than Neve Campbell does, I'm gonna go ahead and dismiss that. Now this next line kind of annoys me.
Something about this one just feels different.
Nope. That had to have been a trailer line for the marketing because this one is not that different. And they tried to do this to us again with the marketing of Scream 6, and I'm tired of it. Stop doing that unless things are actually about to be catastrophically different. Now, of course, we all love this next line, very on brand, simple yet eloquent. And I think this next moment is so underrated, I need to shine a light on it. Dewey needs a moment to get himself together to text Gail, and he can't even call her. He says, "Hope you're doing well," smiley face.
Probably shouldn't have sent the smiley face.
Who among us has not been there? I know you've texted your ex completely unprovoked. Don't even try to lie to me right now. And the overthinking about, do I send a smiley face or is that weird? Am I being weird right now? The answer is yes. You're texting your ex out of the blue. What do you think? But Dewey had good reason, and this scene is adorable. Know what else is adorable?
Holy shit, he came.
Dewey's score is back. You know why? Because he's redeeming himself here after his mess in Scream 4. Scream 4, I've decided, is the only movie where I don't like Dewey, and it did color how I saw his death in Scream 5. But we'll get there. Also another good line from Richie.
Look, just because that guy showered doesn't mean he should have a gun.
Then we're in the home of the twins. Randy was their uncle. Love this reveal. This is when the movie actually starts to get good, by the way. And what have I been saying this whole time? This whole series, has the class been paying attention?
Suspects.
It's all in the throwaway lines. That's where the gold is. And this time it was none other than Martha Meeks delivering. Ooh, suspects. Coming in like a total mom with her little snack tray. This scene continually makes me laugh because everyone is just blaming each other as the potential killer. And Wes is talking to Dewey and he's like, well, you got dumped by your famous wife and crawled into a bottle, so maybe you are the killer.
Well, maybe you're the killer. Because that cut deep.
Everybody laughed. Everyone. And honestly, at that point, I was even suspecting Dewey a little bit because I was like, okay, for one thing, that's the only way they can shake up a killer reveal at this point. And two, because that's kind of a valid motive to get Gale back into town. Of course, we learn later on that's not actually what happened though, so. But everyone shut up, okay? This is Mindy's moment.
Oh my god, he's making a requel.
It's not quite a reboot, it's not quite a sequel, it's a requel. You gotta bring back the legacy characters, but introduce new main characters. And here is also where it becomes abundantly clear why the movie is called Scream. Definitely a play on Halloween 2018, and the trend continues with things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The New Exorcist coming this year, etc. I do love that layer of the commentary down to the title, like they were committed. Same can be said for this next bit.
Are you telling me that I'm caught in the middle of fan fucking fiction?
In interviews, the directors are admitted mega fans of the franchise, and I can't remember which interview it was. If I can track it down, I'll put it in. But they even said, we are making a fan fiction Scream film. There's layers to the meta, keep up. Then Sam gets upset because Mindy says it would make perfect requel sense for her to be the killer, so in a huff she leaves, and Billy is like yelling at her in the car. I don't like it. I wish there was any other way they could have displayed her turmoil. Actors do it all the time. Just make her cry. Up next, we have a scene that has caused some debate among the more intense fans. First of all, subtle homages with Wes in the shower. Reminiscent of Psycho, which is referenced later on in the scene, but is also reminiscent of Scream 2, or should I say Stab. Subtle homages with a flipped script. I like the way they think. I also love when Ghostface asks Judy what her favorite scary movie is.
I prefer animated films and musicals.
Go Judy, honestly. I love how they give us that bit of light to cling on to before the world gets very dark. And I think this is a genuinely well-crafted scene. I know we didn't get any chase scenes, but her violently flipping a Yui does it for me. And then her death is one of the more gruesome of the franchise. Number one, knocked the wind out of me that she was killed before there was even a lick of action in that house. Number two, broad daylight, middle of a suburb. You know how Halloween terrified people because it brought horror to the common land? Before that, in the 60s and stuff, there was a lot of horror movies taking place in big mansions and stuff, so Halloween brought it close to home in the suburbs. So this scene basically leveled up on that. And that's always what Scream is doing, leveling up on Halloween. Anyway, then he has the door open and it's tense, but no one is behind it. It's a reference to Scream and the rules of the Scream 4 Stabathon drinking game. Also a classic Easter egg, lemon squares in the fridge. But this is honestly one of the most boring deaths because it just turns into a spooky house movie at this point. There's no chase, it's just Scream basically going, haha, look how dumb haunted house movies are, and then he dies. Like, yeah, the slow knife through the neck is brutal and nasty, but didn't take much to get us here. This scene is also a rallying cry for annoying purists who think that they're disrespecting Wes Craven. I need anyone with that opinion to like actually get lost because a real fan would have done the research and would have known how present Wes really was on that set.
We all felt it on set and talking to the original cast members, Neve, David, and Courtney, a lot about it and the experience they had and how we could bring that into our making of the movie. And then also in finishing the movie, it was just really making sure that there was never a false note or never anything that would do a disservice to the stuff that Wes has created. Because to us, that's the number one thing that we have to make sure works at the end of the day, is that it does his legacy justice.
Not only that, but Wes's death was intentional to set up even more commemoration later on. But purists are like, to even make another Scream movie without Wes is disrespectful to his name. Art is how legacies live on. Like, literally, what the fuck are you talking about? And kind of a slap in the face to Kevin Williamson, who is the original father of the brainchild that is Scream, who is still involved with this franchise and advised this script. Get it together. Stop trying to bum everyone out. You're literally the people that Mindy is talking about during her whole requel monologue. Then finally, our girl Gale is back. There she is in red. We love it.
Gale?
A text? Ow! You tell me the killer is back in a text?
He was nervous because of your girl boss energy, Gale. Give him a break. Anyway, the scene is really emotional because I don't know why I'm invested in the relationship of Courtney Cox and David Arquette, but aren't we all just a little? It's revealed that Dewey is actually the one that left New York and left Gale because he couldn't hack it in the big city. And it's all for the best. They love each other, but it was never gonna work. Just like he said in Scream 3. Of course, this franchise mirrors their real life relationship, and they had been divorced for about a decade, I think, before they shot this movie. But they still co-parent and are friends. They even did a lot of the press together. Then the iconic cameo of James and Chelsea comes up as Richie is pretending to do his research or whatever, and we see Kirby's interview on the side. This is what everyone was wondering about because we all wanted her back for Scream 5, but she didn't get cast. So we were like, okay, well, are they gonna at least confirm that she's alive? And they did, and the crowd went wild. No, I'm just kidding. No one in my theater ever noticed, but like it wasn't really an obvious thing. But then later, I'm on the internet, right? And I saw that someone else had pointed it out, and then the crowd went wild. The crowd was me, and I was in my bed, I was high, and I was eating carrots. That was the moment. We all know where we were the moment we realized Kirby was still alive. Another amazing thing is watching the reaction of the actors once they realize it was James and Chelsea in that scene.
We're the podcast douchebags that you're watching.
Oh, yeah,
on the laptop.
in the hotel.
We're film fails. Yeah.
Yeah,
We filmed that at our house. Yeah. Yeah.
During the Pizza Hut scene.
Yeah, like their minds were genuinely blown. I love that. Anyway, we're back with Tara for the spooky hospital scene, and she's watching Dawson's Creek. If you remember, I mentioned that's one of Kevin Williamson's shows. This scene is pretty intense though. Tara is completely alone on this hospital floor with one cop, which is the dumbest thing I've ever fucking seen. And while they're being attacked, Richie gets a cut on the arm. And now I'm mad that I didn't document every single time that someone got a cut on their arm in this franchise. With Derek, it was kind of a red herring moment in Scream 2, but Jill gets cut really badly on her arm in Scream 4, and she actually is a killer. So are they setting up a trend with Richie getting cut by the killer too? I don't know, but I'm a little bit tired of it. I need them to come up with a new gag. And let me tell you, they don't find one for Scream 6, but more on that another day. Now, I did bring tissues with me for this next part, so just take one and then pass it around, okay? The infamous murder of Dewey Riley. I'm sorry, but Amber could not fight Dewey. Like, let's be so real. And also, let's talk about it.
You have to shoot him in the head.
Who gives a fuck?
I do.
Well, you shouldn't, because now you're dead. I'm sorry if this is callous, and also I'm sorry that I'm not showing him get ripped in half from the middle, but I knew that Dewey was gonna die, and he dies in such a stupid way. I do love the line, "It's an honor," from Amber there, but we couldn't have let Dewey be a little smarter in that moment. He couldn't have died in a little different way. Like maybe he gets into the elevator and then immediately when it opens, Ghostface is there and just stabs him. I think that would have built it up a lot better because, oh, they're getting away. You think they're safe. They're having a conversation in the elevator or something, and then bam. No, instead they had to let him just waltz right into his death. Whatever. So I didn't cry in that moment, and I never have because I always get taken out of the movie. And it's also really obvious. I knew that one of the original trio was gonna go and that it would be Dewey. I called that like 7 months before the movie even came out, but it could have been a little bit more dignified. I don't know. When I did cry was right here. Yep, all of this. All of it. Just had to rewatch the scene of Gail when she realizes that Dewey's dead. You know, she's in the hospital there, but I told you that's the part that gets to me. Sydney is here to make sure that Mark and the kids are safe. She takes care of fucking business, doesn't she? But it's at this moment that I always feel like this movie is too sad. It's definitely missing some kind of Craven touch. That spark of life, like that je ne sais quoi, where you feel like the movie has a twinkle in its eye and it's winking at you. And that is the best that I can do to describe the tone that's missing. No, I will not elaborate. Maybe it's the lack of likable characters. Let's run that up. Sam is trying to get out of town with Tara and is unbelievably rude to Sydney, who 1, just lost an old dear friend, and 2, is just trying to help her. And Gail and I are on the same page as we always are when she says, "Hey, watch your tone, new girl." Fuck yeah, Gail. Why do they do this? I don't understand the point of them writing a lead who is so flat and at times just downright unlikable. You learn nothing about Sam or Tara besides some of their past trauma. They have no other personality traits in this movie. Oh wait, except that Sam is mentally ill and that she's a daughter of a serial killer. They really hammer that last one home. I mean, she did, like, you get the idea that maybe she's kind of a protective family member, but then you learn about all the stuff that she got into when she was young, and you're like, well, okay, I don't know. I don't know how to think. I don't know how to feel. It's moments like this where I can almost kind of start to maybe sympathize with the people that are like, it can't be a Scream movie without Sydney. Because at this moment, they are not doing a very good job replacing her. Then things finally start to liven up and we get a party scene. And here's a huge tribute to Craven. Couldn't be more obvious. There's literally a giant sign and they cheers to Wes. Then we just get a lot of classic relatable moments and the movie gets good again. Could the secret ingredient to entertaining Scream scenes possibly be, oh, I don't know, Chad and Mindy? You tell me after you listen to this next part. Mindy tests Amber down in the basement. Iconic. Chad passes on sex with Liv and has one of the funniest lines in the movie.
That is a completely valid emotional response to have.
that too.
Chad is what this franchise always needed. I just didn't know it. And Mason and Jasmine are kind of single-handedly keeping this movie afloat. If you'll notice, I've glossed over some of the development between Sam and Tara because they are literally so boring, I do not care. I know the Jenna Ortega stans can't understand that. And listen, I love the girl too. It's not her fault that her character was written to be about as interesting as a saltine cracker. A saltine cracker with asthma, excuse me. Because look, you're gonna give me Mindy watching Stab during the rules scene and expect me to find anything else as interesting? How about when she says this?
I'm also gonna smoke some weed and possibly hook up with Francis.
Convinced yet? That was also a reveal in that moment that Mindy was gay, and I fell even more deeply in love. I was like, okay, you mean to tell me that if I stepped into this universe, I would have a chance with Mindy? Say fucking less. Oh my god, the gays stay winning. Also, don't make this weird like, ooh, she was a high schooler. Jasmine Savoy Brown is 28. She is 5 years older than me in real life, so let's remain in reality, shall we? Same with Mason, he's 26, so don't be weird, okay? Ugh, speaking of Chad, he uses some weird technology to go find his flop of a girlfriend, and then he gets stabbed by Ghostface so bad, like it's not even funny. I was upset by that, and honestly was not expecting him to come back around. They knew what they were doing, those filmmakers, and even Mason in that interview clip that I showed, he was like, yeah, I flipped through the script just to see if I survived because, but let me not get ahead of myself on that, we'll circle back. I will just say the first time I saw that in theaters, I was crestfallen. Then it should have read as pretty sus that Richie starts just kicking everyone out here. He's like, I'm saving your lives, you're welcome.
Hi. Gen Z, how are you?
Chad had it right earlier. Safety in numbers. This rubbed me the wrong way the first time, but I didn't suspect Richie. I was just like, oh, okay, so he's an idiot. And also that party scene was some of the most excitement this movie had had in about 45 minutes. He even breaks up Mindy and this girl. Like, could you be any more of a wet rag? He's only redeemed for me a little bit in this hilarious exchange with Mindy.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Jasmine, thank you. Thank you for being a beacon of light in this moment. I get so irrationally angry at this next scene because it is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why does Liv start acting so fucking weird? Literally, why does she start acting like this when she didn't act like that the entire rest of the movie? You think I'm gonna cut you up? You know what happens to the movie expert? She's not a killer, so what on God's green earth has possessed her to act this suspicious? Getting rejected? Really? That is bad writing. I'm not sorry. That's why I'm convinced that some of the lines of this movie were written just to be in the trailer. I mentioned one of Dewey's earlier. They wanted to have her doing this in the trailer and wrote this whole dumbass scene around it. Now in this next reveal, when Sam realizes that she's in Stu Macher's house and it zooms out, that was a great moment. There were gasps in the theater. That was both fan service and a good story element where I feel like a lot of the fan service in this movie is just that. And it can kind of kill the rewatchability, I think. Like how when Sydney is revealed earlier on, there's this very pregnant pause that's obviously there so the audience can clap. Just make a normal movie. Like, just don't do that. You know what I mean? I get she's back after 10 years. It's a big deal. It makes the rewatch at home weird though. There's like 28 of those moments in Avengers Endgame. You know what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, it was great in the moment. I remember when Captain America first came on screen in Avengers Endgame, I was like, oh, but that is only a theater moment that makes it age horribly. Anyway, this scene was beautiful, pure art to have Mindy telling her quasi-uncle to turn around and then she's like, wait. That had me so giddy, like clenching my hands at my cheeks, like tee-hee, swinging my feet. That is also fan service done right because it is genuinely suspenseful and genuinely funny. But you all know the biggest mic drop of this movie. You already know.
I'm not fucking killer! I know.
The girls were quaking. If this isn't your favorite line of dialogue from Amber, you're wrong. There were gasps. People died, including Liv, thank God, biggest flop of a side character in history. Nothing against the actress, you're gorgeous. But we're done with flop characters. They can stop their feeble attempt to keep this movie afloat because the legacies have arrived.
You ready for this?
Also so iconic that Amber runs out and they just call her bluff immediately. Like, these girls know what's what, so everyone else can just really calm down. Though I do get the complaint that it is a little bit boring that these women show up and can do no wrong. It's the same in Scream 4 with Sydney, remember the Krav Maga? Hence why I don't mind their limited involvement here and the passing of the torch. Then Sam finds Tara in a closet and I can't believe how dumb Amber and Richie are. What was the reason? Just kill her at that point? Literally anyone could have found her. Then it's what I was just talking about, Sydney being iconic, yada yada, I'm bored. I can only go on and on about how iconic she is for so long. I do think that they gifted her with probably all the best dialogue in this movie, and there's not much else to talk about if I'm being honest. This is probably the least amount of commentary I've had to offer per minute of the movie. In my Scream 4 breakdown, I was pulling out clips no less than like every 2 minutes. Like, I covered my bases. In this movie, I'm kind of skimming, but then going on my little tangents. My little tangents. I don't know, sorry. Oh, but this next line of Richie's is funny. Let's watch. Richie is so dumb. Holy shit, it's Ghostface! But Jack Quaid is genuinely funny. I think the casting was right with him. And obviously he's the other killer, which is debatable because Amber did so much of the work. Their motive is also revealed that they want to save the Stab franchise, and Richie's like, nobody takes the true fans seriously because we love something? How can fandom be toxic? These are literally the Halloween fans. They met each other on Reddit too, like please. I didn't like this reveal at the time of the movie's release. I was like, oh, I loved the whole movie except for the reveal. I still think the killer reveal is kind of weak because they're so random, but the motive, I'm like, oh, I see you actually. I experienced a lot of the toxic fandom thing firsthand last Halloween season. With the release of Halloween Ends, petitions were made, hate campaigns blazed, damage control was deployed. One of the biggest victims of toxic fandoms is actually Rian Johnson, who made the most infamously hated Star Wars sequel, The Last Jedi. He was originally supposed to have a cameo in this film, but he was shooting Glass Onion in Greece at the time. I think these filmmakers just have a really good attitude about this kind of commentary too.
That we consider ourselves to be a part of fan culture. We love movies. That's all we talk about is movies. And so for as much as we're like taking shots at toxic fandom, we also consider ourselves to be fans, and we are opinionated fans. You know, that's sort of, we're in the business of creating things that people can have opinions about. If you don't have an opinion about what we've made, then we've failed.
The Blood and Honey guys should really take a page out of their handbook, wouldn't you agree? Anyway, I do retract a former statement that I made about Amber's dialogue. If any of her lines from this next scene are your favorite, then that is acceptable.
Can't have a bona fide Halloween without Jamie Lee.
Nope.
Dewey had to die to make it real. Because our movie has fucking stakes.
And what's crazy is I agree with her. Dewey had to go. Also, what's wild is that she's basically the voice of the writers and directors of this movie, just in a much more twisted way. I imagine that was a conversation they had, like, we are reviving this franchise, trying to save it in a way, and our movie needs to have stakes. Dewey's gotta go. Were you worried that your portrayal of toxic fandom was gonna get any sort of negative reaction from the fans? Nope. The thing is, we're Scream fans, so are the Radio Silence guys. Toxic fandom is toxic fandom. I've engaged with fans for years, having worked on The Amazing Spider-Man, and 99% of interactions are wonderful and lovely. There's that 1% who's not, and they exist. We trust that real fans of the franchise understand that this isn't about them, but we got very excited to play with this element because it felt like something you couldn't say in the other movies. It didn't feel like a 2011 idea, it felt like a 2022 idea. They had the perfect attitude, and I do appreciate that about these writers. Also concerning this reveal, I need to circle back to something that I mentioned in Scream for Dummies Part 3. I said that we would come back to the stew theory in Part 4, but I misspoke, I meant Part 5. There was a behind-the-scenes deleted image from this installment that takes us back to the crime scene of Stu's death. They obviously decided not to use this for anything, but it is a huge confirmation that he did actually die. For any of the fans that still expect him to come back, I think the nail is pretty much all the way in the coffin on that one, but they did decide not to use it, so I don't know, maybe there still is that tiny little shred of hope. Finally, Sam and Tara have my attention because she unties Tara and Richie gets a call flipping the tables on him, and then Tara absolutely rails on Amber with the crutches. That is badass, no one is disputing that. Tara is a goddamn trooper, but she's also just not interesting, and you can be both. This whole sequence is so good though. I cackle when Amber goes, "Is that fucking hand sanitizer?" And then I cry when Gail says, "You killed my best friend." I think that everyone should just collectively take a breath right now because you're gonna need it to laugh.
Time to pass the torch. It's all yours, bitch.
That was everything. An epic death for a pretty good killer, but she would still be towards the bottom of my ranking. Only because she's also such a nothing character before the reveal. Like, I don't care that she's the killer. She could have been any of the other characters with that same motive. Like, she as a character did not matter, if that makes sense. Now we get everyone's favorite Sam moment after she and Richie tumble down the stairs and she's like, "Never fuck with the daughter of a serial killer," and just absolutely wails on him. And this next moment gives me goosebumps because not only does she deliver the meanest pre-murder dialogue, but she also delivers maybe the best knife wipe of the entire franchise.
What about my ending?
Here it comes.
Yeah, I said it, best wipe of the franchise. If I had to rank them though, I don't know, that one is pretty neck and neck with the original. What do you think? Vote down below. Amber is the one to jump up, of course. Love her crazy prosthetic, and Tara's all, I still prefer the Babadook. That line is okay, like it's fine. I don't think it quite packs the punch they thought it was going to, but I'll tell you what does. The fact that Mindy and Chad are both still alive and they thumbs up each other, I'm obsessed. Dewey had to die so that Chad could rise to power. It's like witches, when one supreme dies, the new one can rise up. Anyway, I'll leave you on this last beautiful line.
At least I know what I'm gonna write about.
What's that?
Not this. Those fuckers can die in anonymity. Maybe something about a good man who used to be the sheriff here once.
This is the ultimate arc conclusion for Gale. A beautiful end cap for the journey she's been on throughout this entire franchise. And it's something I'll probably get pretty pissed off about in my next video, but for right now, we can just revel in it. Just like the original film, reporters are swarming the house, and the first credit reveals for Wes. Ugh, not a dry eye in the building, folks. Ultimately, this is my least favorite Scream. Every other movie in this franchise has limitless rewatchability. We'll have to wait and see for Scream 6. I've only seen it once. But I never get tired of the older movies in this franchise, even when I'm editing these videos and I have to watch the same scenes over and over and over. I'm just happy to be here, right? This movie lacks that, and I feel like it all circles back to the side characters. Take the original Scream, for example. Everyone in the original had an iconic line or moment to serve. The attention to detail was exquisite. Even Kenny the cameraman delivers some absolute bangers of one-liners. In Scream 3, it's also non-stop iconic lines and jokes. In Scream 2 and 4, they both have casts to absolutely die for. This movie is missing the spice. It's not quite figured out the formuoli. Maybe you disagree. Good for you. I wish I still loved this movie as much as I did when I first saw it in theaters. I was hoping I would at least kind of have that nostalgia of it being the first Scream movie I ever saw in a theater, but it just doesn't offer me the same good feelings as it does when it was fresh. It's still a good time. I don't actively dislike it the way that a lot of other people do, but it is a pretty mediocre film. I think it was a wonderful starting point for these filmmakers to this franchise. It far exceeded my expectations the first time I saw it. I thought that it was a 4 out of 5 star film, but I do hope they can figure out the magic that's missing. And with that, I'm done. That's Scream 5, baby. If you enjoyed this video and you made it all the way to the end, I could see you maybe enjoying even more content from me. If that's the case, you can join these lovely names scrolling on screen. These are my patrons. We've welcomed, I think, about 15 new people to the Patreon in the last few weeks alone, probably because of my Scream series, and so welcome. It's great to have you. If you want 4 to 6 bonus videos from me every single month, then you can join. The link is down below. If not, that's totally rad too. All the rest of my social media is also linked down below, and that is free. Go and hunt me down if you so desire. But that's it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed this series. I certainly enjoyed making it. That really concludes Scream for Dummies, but my next videos are of course all about Scream 6. My review will be coming out. We'll have a spoiler live stream. I'll react to my Scream 6 predictions. We'll re-rank the franchise on Alive and all the killers. So this series may be over, but there's still so much fun Scream content coming. So I hope you're ready for it, and until then, I'll be right back. Bye.